Hey guys, I am Ibigandscary. I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 replay, this time on Daybreak, featuring Zecron in the top right corner playing the blue Terran, and in your bottom left we have Hale, a far more easily pronounceable name, on the red Protoss. I believe Hale is in platinum and Zecron is in gold. Red versus blue, maybe this is on the latter. I sure hope it is, because the stakes are always, it's just more entertaining when this, stakes are on the line, you're going for ladder points. I know it doesn't mean much, one game's not going to break your whole season, but there's still a little bit more pressure involved. Daybreak, though, is a map that's pretty good for avoiding pressure just because the rush distance between the two maps is so large and there's multiple paths to get there. Unless we see a proxy out of either player, I doubt we're going to see some super early aggression. We do see that Hale is sending out a single probe. Maybe it's going to drop down a pylon before it comes up and scouts the base, but it better hurry because Zecron is beginning to wall off his ramp. We can expect to see the bunker go down there. It is surprising to see the pylon placed here instead of over by the ramp, just to deny the scouting on Hale's side of things also. But it's not altogether uncommon. It's not something that I do, but I understand why other people do it. The barracks is coming down, probably going to get a supply depot right there, but Hale manages to sneak in a probe, and you can just see him doing the circuit left and right, seeing that there's no gas taken for Zecron as well as for Hale, so no super early tech. In fact, we can see that Hale is floating a large amount of minerals, which probably means that this probe, which is getting in position right now, is going to drop down a nexus in short order. Supply depot is coming down just in time to guarantee that that probe's not coming back. It'll be interesting to see if Hale's going to throw down a pylon here in the natural to deny the expansion that's probably going to be coming out of Zecron himself sooner or later. If you can deny that expansion, even if it's just for a couple of seconds, it can really make a big difference, considering that he saw that Zecron is not going for that early gas, so he's definitely going to be going up on the minerals. And with that excess of minerals, you can expect Zecron to be grabbing an early expansion himself. Another pylon coming down, the gateway finally getting underway, as well as the first gas for Hale. Pretty standard stuff right now. Want to get that tech up, get some sentries out, because sentries are so handy. When the ramp is only this size, a single force field can really cut down the army size that a player has to deal with. And even here, whenever the destructible debris, as long as they stay up, 1 or 2 force fields can cut an army in half, and even if it does go down, some buildings can be built behind it, and you can still have that wall off. Zecron deciding to spend his excess minerals to throw down an expansion of his own. No other tech coming out of either player. We can see just now Hale's thrown down the cybernetics core in the gateway. For a minute there I thought he was saving up for something more insurmountable, some other huge tech, but without the cybernetics core there's really nothing you can do there. This map really lends itself to some airplay though, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a Stargate coming out of Hale and even some drop play coming out of Zecron later on. As things are now though, we can see that there's 4 barracks total coming out of Zecron, so he's going to be really heavily playing on the marine side of things because he's grabbed no gas for any early tech at all. One probe coming down here to check, I guess, for some hidden tech, maybe getting into position to proxy something, even though it is kind of late. With Hale having that first nexus up and no forge down, I can expect Hale to start churning out some units to become prepared for the aggression that should come out of Zecron shortly. Still no gas out of Zecron, so he's definitely going to have to mainline the just sheer amount of marines he needs to get in order to make this cost effective. Even just one gas geyser being tapped can really lend a significant amount of upgrades to a heavy marine force. You can get those combat shields, you can get the stem, and of course the +1 to armor or ground attack. It just goes a long way when you're dealing with gateway units from the Protoss side of things. We can see that both Nexus are really stocking up on the energy, and no energy is being spent on the warp gate, so that leads me to believe that Hale's going to have some other large play coming out later on. Maybe he's gearing up for some significant aggression. Still no proxy pylon, so maybe that aggression is going to be built somewhere in the base. Maybe a Robo is going to be coming out of 2-gate into Robo, or maybe even a Stargate if we're lucky. Or it could be that the macro is just slipping. Remember that, you know, this is, I believe, gold versus platinum, so it's definitely possible. Staying up on the chrono boosts, up on the drone injects, up on the muleage is one of the harder aspects of the game to stay on top of at all times, but it is very, very important. You can see that Hale's grabbed a third right now. Nothing coming out of Zecron. He hasn't thrown down another CC. Sometimes you'll see a player build it in his main base and then warp it into an orbital command just for some supplemental mules, some extra energy. But we don't see anything like that coming out of Zecron, so he's very content to stay on this 2-base right now, and I expect to see a timing attack out of him shortly. We do see that he has grabbed the first 2 gas finally, so he's going to be looking to get some upgrades and some add-ons onto those barracks. Speaking of upgrades, we can see 2 forges coming out of Hale. This is a good idea. He's got plenty of gas left over, and upgrades are really going to help him stem the tide of this huge marine force that's coming out of Zecron. But remember, these are just bald units, no upgrades of any form. Stem on this army, even just a timing attack with stem as it was finishing up, if it was poking at the front door, he could be guaranteed to take out this expansion. As things are now, with some clever force fields, Hale might be able to cut these units in half here if they were better positioned, and if he succeeds in throwing getting all these probes off and transferring them somewhere else, the damage that he takes from this attack could be minimal. However, Hale decides to engage the army on the low ground, some good force fields, but those zealots go down almost instantly to the hail of gunfire from the Marines, and they move pretty much uncontested into the natural expand, which has just quite a lot of energy. These probes, none of them are getting transferred off some stutter step micro. From the Marines, they take down all the probes. You can see the income tabs are heavily favoring Zecron, even though he's on 2 bases. With all those probes going down, that was quite an economic blow. But Hale does have quite a lot of money left over, and he decides to get a lot of gateways, which will become warp gates, which will become pretty much instant units, which is what he needs right now. He needs to field a force and prevent this force from swinging up into the main. Zecron does not know currently that there is a third. He might suspect it, but he's deciding to engage the main force in the main, deal a death blow. Unfortunately, about 6 Marines get caught by the force fields, get taken down, and now this force from Zecron, which was so intimidating at first, is now pretty much evenly matched with Hale's. Still, the damage that Zecron has done, taking out that expansion, taking out all those probes, that is such a heavy hit. And you can see that there are 2 command centers being built by Zecron right now in his main, so even when this attacking force goes down, Zecron's going to be able to lift those off, transfer them probably in the bottom right corner, or maybe even just warp them into orbitals and do another 2-base play, but I don't think that would be very wise. I feel like he's got an advantage right now. He still has that economic lead, at least until the Nexus comes up, and then the other 2 Nexus boost out those probes and hopefully get Hale back into the game. As things are now, Hale has a good force of gateways, and he's also got 2 forges which will be building quite a lot of upgrades. He's got the 1-1 right now, but as the gap widens, you know, we can see that 1-1's just now started for Zecron, as well as the stem. Hopefully combat shields is on the way shortly thereafter. Once all that finishes, this heavy marine force will be far more intimidating than it is now. I don't think Hale is fielding an army large enough to deal a death blow to Zecron, but it certainly will allow him to do some pressure on the front door for Zecron. Taking down those destructible debris, it looks like Zecron's positioned the first command center. Oh, and he's transferring all these probes. All the harvesters, about half of them go down, and it's going to lead this force up to the 3rd, which is exactly what Zecron did not want to happen. You can see that the income is actually evening up now. Despite Zecron having a mineral lead, despite him having all the mules to mine off of, he's slowly beginning to run out of mineral patches, and he needs to take these expansions if Hale can succeed in holding off all this expansion that Zecron is trying to take. He'll be in a fantastic position. We can see that the if you look at the mini-maps as this force goes down, some good force fields placed right there. You look at the mini-map down at the natural expand for Hale, he hasn't taken that gas again, and because of it, he still has a lot left over, but his income is mainly minerals. He's doing a smart thing with getting that charge for the Zealot leg. I expect him to throw in a lot more Zealots so that he can charge and kind of contain that Marine ball as it tries to kite away. 6 sentries coming out. Another thing that you can do to contain and split up the Marine ball is force fields. Both of those plays are very smart, very clever. Another clever play is getting the planetary fortress down in your bottom right corner. It's going to help hold off any aggression coming from Hale, as well as buy time for the main force from Zecron to get into position. Some major force fields coming down, really chopping up Zecron's army. However, it's still so intimidating with that stem finished. Finally, we get some upgrades on the ground army. It's going to be able to chase down these poor 6 stalkers as he forces any units being warped in on the front to retreat. You can see a High Templar archive going down in Hale's main base. The storm is going to be magnificent against the Marine ball, but as Zecron transitions into more heavy Marauder play as he gets the upgrades for concussive shell, hopefully we're going to see some factories, some siege tanks, maybe even there is a factory, and a starport. Fantastic. Reactor going down on the factory is probably going to be used for the starport. Medevacs are great at increasing the mobility of the army, and as Hale gets more expansions, he's going to be more vulnerable to the drop play that can come out of Zecron, especially with the size of this map. The air mobility that's afforded by those medevacs it's so powerful, and it's definitely something that Zecron's going to be looking to take advantage of. However, the income for both players is pretty much neck and neck. You can see Zecron's got a heavy lead on the mineral count because of those mules, but a lot of those minerals are being spent by these Marines, which are really getting cut down. You can see that Zealot charge really paid for itself, and the army force that Zecron was fielding there has really been cut down with. Yeah, I mean, it's a good trade for both armies, but that aggression from Zecron did absolutely nothing. It would have been better spent by poking up here. The stemmed Marines are very fast. You could dart into that probe line, take out a bunch of probes there, and do quite a lot more damage. You can see just the sheer amount of barracks that Zecron's fielding allows him to re-macro very, very quickly. Hale's pushing with a force that's not prepared to deal even with this, which is about half of the army that Zecron has right now. Hale would be better off teching into something like a warp prism, getting those High Templars out with their psionic storm, and waiting for more tech to come out. This time Zecron's choosing a far smarter path for him to do some aggression on coming in here. He's wasting some time on the pylon, which unfortunately gives Hale enough time to reposition. Now he's got Archons in his force. Once that Archon closes, the splash damage is going to be magnificent, but it looks like Zecron's got just enough Marauders in here to finish up, but the Zealots are doing quite a lot of damage. Again, the 2-2 against 1-1. That's just nail in the coffin. I could have sworn Zecron had a large enough force to deal more damage to Hale, but as things were, some good force fields from the sentries and some good upgrades out of Hale means that he's still got the advantage, and he's going to press that advantage as he starts moving out. Unfortunately, this third now has a planetary as well, so both of the expansions are looking heavily defended, and Hale is, for the first time, behind on expansions, and it looks like he's going to try to re-macro himself, grab a fourth, maybe look to deny the inevitable expansions coming out of Zecron, probably in the bottom right corner. Of course, as I say that, he starts to create another CC. Unfortunately, both expansions are right beside pylons, which really tells Hale immediately that Zecron's trying to do an expansion, and some quick warp-ins from some Zealots are going to deny or harass that. Units are going to be carted down by Zach, but it wasn't fast enough to stop the CC's SCV from going down, and it could be that weakened command center is going to get cleaned up later. At the same time, when those units were pulled down by Zecron, Hale decides to do some more aggression up on the third, takes down the planetary almost instantly, getting a good surround by those Zealots and pushing down all those SCVs, forcing them to retreat. And again, Hale takes the economic lead. Zach's forced to stem early to get his force back up into position. Unfortunately, he's met a heavy wall of Archons, and their splash damage just works wonders on a heavy Marine ball. You can see that Hale's taking advantage of the higher tech. He's got those upgrades. 2-2. I think 2-2 is just now started for Zecron. Even though Zecron got a higher expansion count right now, he's really been cramped. He hasn't done a lot on his aggression, and he hasn't teched any higher than Marines, Marauders, and a Medevac. There's no siege tanks, there's no higher tech, and that's really forced him to engage Hale in areas where he really wouldn't want to engage. You don't want to engage these Archons straight up in big balls where their AoE can do the maximum amount of damage. You want them to run into your siege line. You want them to get running around all over the place trying to stop your drops, but Zecron hasn't been able to do an answer to Hale's unit composition because he's been forced to engage Zecron at all times. So immediate repairs going down on the planetary fortress. For a second there it looked like it was stabilizing, but unfortunately splash damage from the Archons really took out a lot more harvesters, 47 to 70, as Hale definitely takes the lead. Another huge warping of zealots. You can see that Hale's floating a lot of gas, but these zealots with their upgrades and their charge just do quite a lot of damage and kind of loop around the side of the bio ball that Zecron is fielding, and it just cuts down these units. Zealots are going to get cleaned up, but all that does is carves up some more space for the Archons to get in there, and they deal a devastating blow, 40 to 140 supply. Zecron bows out as both of his expansions have been denied. Almost mined out on his natural, completely mined out at his main, and Hale has four expansions. Only 3 of them are mining, but you know, the main pretty much untouched the entire time. If Zecron had done one drop, if he had loaded up a single medevac and dropped it here and taken out all of these units before the force, which was so far afield, could get back, yeah, 1 or 2 warp rounds could have come in and could have dealt with that, but it still would have eased up some of the aggression, could have allowed him to get an expansion here, maybe a hidden one down here. Could have done something. Unfortunately, Zecron was really contained by Hale, who answered every time there was any form of aggression, and he really couldn't tech up. I don't know who posted this, and I could check looking over to my right. I'm going to bet it was Hale just because everybody posts things that they win, but I appreciate whoever you were, and I appreciate you guys watching this too. I am Big and Scary, and I will see you guys later. Bye.